The world just got a little less safe as Iran went for Israel. I can't really articulate it too much on this channel. And now Israel is doing its retaliation plan against Iran. And Iran is going to be very much done. Just remember, only 1/4 of Iran's population support their radical leadership. 3/4 of the Iranian people want to be free, are way more Western, and are not for the radical movements, even against Israel. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is the Doug TenNapel channel. You've come to the right place. Thanks for watching. We're going to put Trump in contrast to Kamala Harris. Here's where it started, back with Rachel Maddow.
Tweeting out, this bravado about, lock and loaded. What does that mean? Okay. And also,
well, it's an implicit military threat that the U.S. is going to use. We're going to use U.S. force.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And there should be an implicit military threat, an explicit one. If you attack Israel, then, okay, that's normally what happens. That's what they should expect. So now we know that Kamala Harris and Biden were not projecting that military threat on Iran.
And again, listen, as far as I'm concerned, this president is motivated by his personal insecurities more than he is our national security.
Now, that's a funny little joke using the word security. But one thing that we know about Kamala Harris is she actually displays the tone of insecurity with her cackle. And we also know that she had a real hard time during the debates and her prep work, that she dismisses her personal assistants, that her own people around her have a hard time dealing with her. And some are anticipating that's because of her personal insecurity of knowing that she got everywhere by getting freebies and favors and not because she earned it with merit.
If this president is thinking about putting us in a position where we're in a war with Iran, the consequences will be absolutely unacceptable and tragic in terms of the young men and women who are American soldiers who would be sent and deployed into something that was completely avoidable.
We already know she doesn't care about our people who are deployed already by her debate answer saying that we weren't in theater anywhere. We were in at least 5 hot zones actively when she said that. So she doesn't keep track of our soldiers in theater and our young men and women. Also that I think it was 13 of them that died on their Afghan withdrawal. That's her record. This stuff going on in Iran and Israel, it may not be Kamala and Joe's fault, but it sure as hell isn't Trump's fault. So if it's anyone's fault in American leadership, it is Kamala Harris, primary, because she's the only one conscious, and Biden secondarily.
In a Harris administration, we wouldn't have gotten ourselves into this mess. I do not believe that the current president of the United States is working in the best interest of the people of this country. I have good reason, based on everything we know publicly, to suspect and to be concerned that his motivation is more out of self-interest than it is the interest of the American people.
It's pathetic to watch someone talk that way around a favorable news organization. That is, they gave her so many softballs, MSNBC did. They never built her up to be a great debater or a great thinker, to have to think on her feet. She would just get applauded for any mushy garbage that fell out of her mouth, like this stuff, saying what Trump would have gotten us into. Well, there's no predicting the future. Okay, so there's no way we could know what Trump would have done if he was in office. One thing that we do know is that right now, Kamala and Biden are in office and they screwed the pooch. So at the very least, now they have to make the argument that under Trump, it would have been much worse. And we already know their lies and the guarantees that they made. No one believed them. There's no evidence that Iran would ever have followed anything they said. Here's another tweet from Kamala Harris in 2019. Either the Trump administration is angling for another disastrous war in the Middle East, or they've spent 2 years saber rattling against Iran with no strategy and no end game. This president is making America weaker and less safe. Well, tonight, everyone feels less safe than ever, Kamala Harris. So if you're going to blame the president, are you man enough to take responsibility for what you did, Kamala?
You know, I'm traveling our country and meeting with the families who are sending their sons and daughters to these endless wars.
And those families didn't want to visit from you. 13 families who lost their soldiers in Afghanistan. They wanted to visit Donald Trump, you empty-headed fool.
Crooked Joe Biden just agreed to pay a $6 billion ransom to the Iranian dictatorship in exchange for hostages. This is yet another Biden surrender and a further blistering humiliation of the United States of America.
And this is Trump predicting the instability that is here now. Again, it doesn't mean that he was right or that he had perfect knowledge or that that is the absolute cause. But he said, look, you give money to Iran, they could repurpose it and use it for terror. Now, you might think I'm just making political points, but in a couple more clips you'll see in this episode, Blinken himself repeats what Trump says and is in agreement. I'll prove it to you and you'll see.
But even worse, this decision will be extremely deadly. Biden is giving $6 billion to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, just as when Obama sent the Iranian regime pallets of cash for hostages in the dark of night. Remember? Plane loads of cash. Biden's ransom payment will be immediately used to stoke violence, bloodshed, and mayhem throughout the Middle East and all around the world, costing countless innocent lives, putting Israel, the United States, and the entire world in very grave peril.
If that was a guess, it was a very lucky guess on Trump's part. Or maybe he knew the lay of the land. Maybe everyone who dismissed him as a boob and a fool. Now, again, you got to put politics aside because people are suffering. And I mean loss of innocent life. We must pray for the Middle East. I pray that God's will be done over there. I pray for the innocent, both in Iran and in Israel, that they would be protected. We don't want innocent people gone. So see, I'm not hoping for a loss. I don't hope Kamala Harris loses. I hope she wins. I'm praying she does what's right to bring down the body count. Down. That's what I'm hoping for and praying for. And I'm not going to side against her just because I win political points and get to put Trump in office. Okay. That's not what I'm doing. The problem is she's legit losing. Kamala, you have to change your strategy. Here's Blinken admitting that the money that they gave to Iran, he knew would fund terror just like Trump predicted.
What do you say about the argument that money is fungible? So Iran may have known this money is coming and used other funds to help fund this attack that happened.
Iran has unfortunately always used and focused its funds on supporting terrorism, on supporting groups like Hamas. And it's done that when there have been sanctions. It's done that when there haven't been sanctions. And it's always prioritized that.
That's a massive admission of guilt, enough to get, I think they should be impeached. I think this guy, he should go to jail. They knew the money that they paid to Iran and lifting oil sanctions, allowing them to drill for oil. They're not putting pressure on the world stage to not buy oil from Iran. So they're bringing in like billions of dollars a day, just tons of money that they can sell all day and fund whatever they want, because these people will not get tough enough because they think that being tough causes trouble. No, being weak and conceding to doing ceasefires too early and conceding to peace removes peace if you do it too early. An example of where you escalate violence or escalate pressure to end violence is what we did in World War II. Mark Levin said that last night. You want to see an example of it? We're escalating threats and escalating massive campaigns against someone ends violence. World War II. And especially when your leader is if your leaders are religious lunatics, like in Iran, you especially are going to have to give it to them good before they can turn around. Here's Trump's response. I'm going to read some of this. Trump's response to what happened in Iran. Statement from President Trump on Iranian terror regime's imminent attack on Israel. Quote, "The world is on fire and spiraling out of control. We have no leadership. No one is running the country. We have a non-existent president in Joe Biden and a completely absent Vice President Kamala Harris, who is too busy fundraising in San Francisco, a city which she and Gavin Newsom totally destroyed, and staging fake photo ops. No one's in charge. And it's not even clear who's more confused, Biden or Kamala. Neither has any idea what's going on. Absolutely true. When I was president, Iran was in total check. They were starved for cash, fully contained, and desperate to make a deal. Kamala flooded them with American cash, and ever since, they've been exporting terror all over and unraveling the Middle East. Under President Trump, we had no war in the Middle East, no war in Europe, and harmony in Asia, no inflation, no Afghanistan catastrophe. Instead, we had peace. So now you can't argue with that fact. You may not believe Trump is the cause, but you can't argue with his list of facts that is true. Under his administration, those are all facts. It may be the most amazing, crazy coincidence, and correlation is not causation. I'll grant you that. But all I can say is it's a disaster now under Kamala Harris. I'm just going to wrap this up with the very last statement. He says, if I was in charge, October 7th never happens. Russia, Ukraine never happens. Afghanistan botched withdrawal never happens. And inflation never happens. If I win, we will have peace in the world again. If Kamala gets 4 more years, the world goes up in smoke.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
It didn't work. You moron. I'm Doug in exile.